Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads, today with a fun tag video. I like those. And the tag that I saw over at Jake's and Andrew's channel is the Deja Vu tag, which is about rereading books. I mean, I thought it's kind of interesting. First of all, I like the questions, and it was really fun to listen to Jake and Andrew and how they answer the questions. And then I'm currently rereading a book, so I thought might as well. Again, I was not tagged in the video, which is fine. There's probably someone out there that at one point said, you know what, if you want to do this, just you are tagged. That's kind of how this works all the time, I feel. Let's just jump into this tag. The first question is, do you reread and how often? And originally, that's kind of when I started thinking about this tag. I wanted to say like, no, I don't reread that often. But then I realized it's actually not that true. This year, I already reread 9 books, which is about 10% of the amount of books that I read so far this year. So that's not a small number necessarily. And even in the past, I mean, it's not that I'm actively trying to reread a book, not necessarily, but it just happened. There were situations where I just felt like I needed something that I know. So when I pick it up, I get kind of a comfy feeling reading it. I don't know if that makes any sense. But sometimes there's just this one book, or there's just a specific situation where I'm like, you know what? It would be great following along in that story right now. Which kind of fits also as an answer for question 2 is, why do you reread? Oftentimes it is when I'm in a funky mood and I just need something to pick me up. So as an example, if I reread a fantasy book, it's just that I like that fantasy world so much, that I like the characters so much, that they just give me that warm and cozy feeling of I'm entering now a world that I know, and where I truly connected with the characters and the world, and where I had so many emotions in the book that I want to relive them. I think in the past, if I look at my entire life, I reread often for comfort. A romance story after a bad breakup, or when I moved to the US and everything was still kind of foreign to me, I reread Green Rider a couple of times because it was just a story that I'm super familiar with and that kind of makes me feel home. So I think those are the most reasons why I really reread. The next question is, what have been your favorites book to reread? So Green Rider is probably, in general, the fantasy series that I've reread the most often. I'd say book 1 probably 6 or 7 times by now. I'm not 100% sure, but it's getting closer to the 10 number of rereads. So yes, Green Rider series is definitely one of those series that I've read a lot and reread a lot. And then if we are stepping out of fantasy, the Susan Elizabeth Phillips romance books are some that I've reread quite some time, especially the Chicago Star series. It's one of my favorite love stories. I love all the characters. I just love Susan Elizabeth Phillips' writing style, even though her name is hard to pronounce. And that's typically one of those where when I, came out of a crappy relationship and I just wanted to experience some love, that's when I really tended to reread those. But sometimes I just wanted to have a great love story, and then I knew these would be great, so I picked them up a couple of times. And that leads then to the next question. It's kind of 3.5. Which books would you like to reread? And there are 2 currently. One is Black Sun. Black Sun is the first book in a new fantasy series. It is so interesting. I really loved the writing style. I loved the world. I thought it was really unique. I liked all the different POVs and that event that everybody walked towards at the end of book 1. And I want to reread this book for book 2 or in preparation for book 2 that is coming out in March 2022, I think. And because there was so much happening in book 1, I kind of want to not just view a summary from someone, but actually read the book again, probably towards February, and then I'm looking forward to the release in March. And the other book that I want to reread already, even though I'm not even done with the series right now, is Dune. So I'm still in the middle of reading Dune as a series. I'm hopefully finding time to read Children of Dune anytime soon. But after watching the movie, I really want to read Dune again. I truly enjoyed this book. I loved all the political intrigue and all of those kind of hidden themes in the book that especially came out in Dune Messiah. So I kind of already, because I read Messiah back in June, and Dune in either April or May this year. Now we have November. So it is quite the time already. And I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, should I maybe start at the beginning again and then read through those one a month and actually, make an effort to go through one a month? Or should I finish it first and then start the reread again? I don't know. But I already know either way that I want to read Dune again because it was such an epic ride. Next question is, what book do you predict to be so good that you want to reread it again? That's a tough one because I really think about, or I try not to because, expectation setting and stuff like that. I try not to think too much about, am I going to love this book? And if I'm going to love it, do I want to reread it? I don't know. I don't have those thoughts. But I'm currently in the middle of the Shadows of the Apt series. Well, I read the first book and I'm planning on reading book 2 very soon. And that could be one of those series that I see myself rereading in a couple of years just because there's so much to it. It's such a vast world. And if the series continues to be as good as book 1, I can totally see that there's something, where we just have to re-experience again, right? Where I have to reread it to see more of what's happening and just to dive back into the world because it was pretty darn good. Question number 5 is, pick a book from your younger years that you would be interested in rereading again. If I think about younger years, I think like middle grade, that level when I was a child. So that's what I'm going with. I don't know if that means something different for others, but that's in my head how this question works. And there's one, it's called Der 35. Mai, which is literally translated May 35th by Erich Kästner, which is a German author who created a lot of adventurous middle grade stories. I don't think many of those have been translated into English. There are some with the 5 boys, Emil und die Detektive. It's probably Emil and the, detectives. Is that the right word in English? Something like that. I think that might be translated, but not May 35th. Because it already in Germany is not one of his most popular works, but I loved it. I read it many times when I was a child. I still have a copy with me. It's not my original copy that I received when I was a kid. It's a reprint that I bought at a later time because I lost my copy. And I love this story, and I actually probably should reread it again now that I'm truly grown up. Well, whoever is, right? We're all children at heart. And the other one would be The Never-Ending Story. I love the movie. I love the book. I don't think I reread the book. I think I read it once and that was pretty much it. I don't think I read, or maybe twice. I don't think I read it much more. And I just loved the movie back then. I rewatched the movie a couple of years ago and it was awful. I mean, special effects back then were really, really awful. And just in case you don't know, that was actually filmed in Babelsberg, which is in Germany. It's like the Hollywood of Germany, if you will. It's obviously not as big. Anyway. Never-Ending Story, especially after I heard Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. She just read the book, and when I heard her talking about it, I was like, oh, I have to read this again. And again, I actually have for The Never-Ending Story, I actually have my original copy from my childhood with me here in the US, and I could read it again. All right, next one is about a big series that is so big that you need to reread it again. So Shadows of the Apt, I already mentioned that I probably want to reread it because it's so big, but the other one is, again, Dune. I come back to that because I really enjoyed the story, and I truly think that there are things that I've just missed because, first of all, it's written in English, which is not my first language, so I had some trouble getting through some of the conversations and the dialogues and understanding, the hidden meaning of that dialogue. So I actually ordered everything in German, and I want to reread it in German again to maybe catch more of it. I don't know. I hope the translation is good. And the next one is about, well, what type of books are even good to be reread? What genres are good for rereading versus not? And I think I agree with pretty much, like, from what I've heard Jake and Andrew talk about, I agree pretty much with that. I think thrillers, mystery novels, stuff like that are not as great for rereading because once you solved it, especially like the whodunit type of things, once you read it and you know what the answer is, I feel those would be a lot more boring to reread. Whereas a genre like fantasy or sci-fi is actually really great for rereading, especially if you have bigger series and not just like, one short book. It might not be as great, but like bigger series but like bigger series or, more epic in nature, those are great for rereading. I think another one that can be hit or miss is nonfiction. it might depend on the book, but I could see, especially if it's more an educational piece or if it's like a biography or something, that rereading it would be great because there's no mystery that you're solving at the end of the day, but you're actually learning a whole bunch of stuff. And if you read it again, you have a chance to deepen your knowledge, right? Making it set in your brain so you remember that kind of stuff. And again, also, if you read through something maybe faster or you read it a long time ago, it helps you refresh your memory, maybe see some things that you didn't see back then. So I think nonfiction would also be a good one for rereads. Next question is about a book that I liked better after rereading it. And there's one that I reread just recently. Well, the first read was this year and the reread was this year. And that is Project Hail Mary. So I read the book in May. And then I listened to the audiobook, so my reread was on audio in June, and it made such a difference. I mean, I already loved Project Hail Mary. It was definitely my best book of the year. It was such a great story with everything that was going on. And then the audiobook, because of the narrator and because of the sound effects, just made it so much better. And I think this is amazing if you can expand basically the way you consume the book, and that then adds kind of to the experience of the story. I think this is incredible, and it was so much fun to experience that in audio again and listen to the same story. And I already want to reread Project Hail Mary again. Can you read a book 3 times in 1 year? I don't know. And then there's an 8.5, which is about, was there a book that you liked less on rereading it? And I have to say, I'm not sure. I don't remember really actively having reread a book and then liking it less. Nothing comes to mind. The only thing that I can say right now, so I'm currently reading a Game of Thrones, and it's a reread for me. I read it, I don't know how many years ago, 10, I don't know, back then in German. And I like Game of Thrones. And actually back then I said I'm not going to reread it because it's just too big. And, while I liked it, I didn't love it. So I'm not making friends right now. Then Jimmy over at the Fantasy Network said, hey, he's doing the reread. If you've listened to other videos from me, you know that he's doing the reread right now. So I'm currently reading the first book. And I have to say I'm struggling a little bit because there are a lot of things that I just know. And, as more as I'm reading, while I find really interesting things and while I now read things, again, I experience things that I haven't experienced before, or I'm now understanding things that I couldn't understand before because I didn't know where it was going back then. But overall, it's it's a great book, but I'm not fully into it right now. I'm struggling a little bit with getting into Game of Thrones and committing to it and actually reading it. I'm getting distracted with other books. So I hope, with maybe once I'm done with book 1 and I'm moving into book 2, I hope it gets a bit better. But it's not necessarily that I like it less. I feel from a liking level, I'm liking it the same way as I liked it when I read it the first time. I'm just struggling a bit more this time, but that could just be general attention span issue. I don't know. All right, and then question 9 is kind of, if you reread, let us know which book you want to reread till the end of the year. Well, the end of the year is 2 more months less than that, so there's not much time. And I'm not planning on rereading any book, actually. I mean, except for if I'm continuing with Game of Thrones, right? Then we have Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords would be. So Clash of Kings in November and Storm of Swords in December. So that would be rereads if I continue doing that, which I kind of hope, because at the end of the day, it is a good story. And I kind of want to experience it in English because I read it in German back then. And I don't know, I just hope I'm not giving up on that. We'll see. So those would be the only ones. If we include next year, just to give us a little bit more time, then definitely Black Sun. I'm planning on rereading Green Rider again. There's an announcement coming soon, hint, hint. I'm planning on rereading Dune next year. And there are probably others that will fall into that category. I don't know. And then lastly, tag your friends. Well, since I grabbed this tag just because, feel free to do the same, right? Now I'm definitely the one that says, if you like this tag and you want to make a video talking about this, do it. Do it. I think it's great. I think talking about this book, like those questions help you think through some things, and it's actually really fun. All right, let me know down in the comments, what was your recent reread? What's the last book that you reread? I would love to know. And then don't forget to like and subscribe because you want to see more videos from me, right? And that hint that I just put out there, you want to know what this is, right? I'm announcing that actually pretty soon. So thanks everyone for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed me rambling through this tech and talking about the books that I've reread in my life and why I'm rereading and all that stuff. And then I hope I see you soon with my next video. Till then, have a great rest of your day. Bye!